His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. I'm going to get Chris to read from Romans and 2 Corinthians. So thank you very much, Chris.
Romans chapter 1 verses 18 to 23. The wrath of God is being revealed from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth by their wickedness, since what may be known about God is plain to them, because God has made it plain to them. For since the creation of the world, God's invisible qualities, his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God, nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts were darkened. Although they claimed to be wise, they became fools, and exchanged the glory of the immortal God for images made to look like a mortal human being, and birds and animals and reptiles. And 2 Corinthians 10 verse 5. We demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris. His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. I wanted to tell you about a little electric motor today. A little electric motor. I'm not a mechanic, I'm not an engineer, much less an electrical engineer. So in a way, I don't really know what I'm talking about, but I have memorized the workings of an electric motor. So if you are a mechanical engineer, an electrical engineer, you might know even better than me what I'm talking about. So here goes. The electric motor that I'm describing has gears, a rotor, an axle, a drive shaft, bushings, even though I don't know what bushings are, and universal, and adapter rings, even though I don't know what adapter rings are. The rotor connects the gear mechanism to the drive shaft. The drive shaft, at the end of it, is really smooth. The end of it's attached to the bushings. There's a thin layer of fluid between the two. So when the drive shaft spins, there's almost no friction at all, making the electric motor almost 100% efficient. I should have said that the drive shaft is attached to the universal, which is attached to the bushings. The universal consists of 120 moving parts, which expand and contract as the machine moves. The rotor consists of an outer ring, an inner ring, an adapter ring, and the center, a housing for the drive shaft. The gear mechanism has got two main gears, forward and reverse, and then a gear to adjust the power output. The forward and the reverse, one second is spinning forward, and the next second is spinning in reverse, and then it can change direction in less than a millisecond, less than 1,000th of a second. It's amazing. And the gear to change gear and adjust the power output. Sometimes it encounters resistance, so it has to drop down a gear. Just like when a person on a bicycle starts to go uphill, he needs to drop down a gear. So the little electric motor has torque sensors. They sense the increasing resistance, so that it tells the motor to drop down a gear to adjust the power output. And when it's in less resistance, the torque sensors tell the motor to adjust accordingly, so that it doesn't waste power. So now they may tell you how big this electric motor that I'm describing. 2,000. If you lined up 2,000 of them side by side, it would equal 2,000 of them would be no more than the thickness of one human hair. 2,000 all side by side, no more than the thickness of one human hair. The electric motor is 45 nanometers wide. 45 nanometers wide. A nanometer is 1/billionth of a meter. If you can imagine, or if you see a millimeter, really millimeters is a small unit of measurement. If you can conceive of the millimeter being divided into a million parts, you can't imagine it, but a millionth of a millimeter is a nanometer. The electric motor is in fact a living electric motor. And it is in fact a bacterium, E. coli bacterium cell. And the E. coli bacterium cell swims around in your gut to aid you in your digestion, and it helps itself along the way. Everybody, all biologists know about this E. coli bacterium and how it moves. Some evolutionists, sorry about that. Some evolutionists, professors describe the E. coli bacterium as a remarkable example of nanotechnology, or sophisticated rotary motor, or an elegant example of molecular machinery. You can see how complicated the little living electric motor is. But that's nothing to be compared to the complexity of the machine that makes it, because of course it has to be made. So the machine that makes it makes parts for it as well. So the cell hasn't got a depot of spare parts. So the machine that makes the machine makes the parts as needed, and then a little postman molecule actually conveys the parts to the site that it's needed, and of course all that needs energy, and the energy of a cell is not the fuel. The fuel of a cell is not petrol or sugar. It's actually ATP, adenosine triphosphate. But the adenosine triphosphate itself has to be made. So there's little molecules called ATP synthase molecules, which make ATP out of ADP, and then adenosine diphosphate, by grabbing a hold of a floating phosphorus molecule and making ADP, ATP, and then adenosine triphosphate. The electric motor runs, of course, by electricity, and the normal household supply of electricity is a stream of negatively charged electrons. But the electric current that runs the rotor of the little living electric motor is a stream of positively charged protons, not electrons, but it still works. And so the stream of positively charged protons turns the rotor. It's amazing. His eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. I know that my purported description of the electric motor is bumbling and naive and very inexpert, but I hope that you have some idea of the complexity of the little living electric motor. Therefore, anybody who says that the little living electric motor came about all by itself by trial and error, or was built through small incremental improvements over time, that's lunacy. Did I say lunacy? It's actually wicked, because Romans 1 says the wrath of God is being poured out from heaven against all the godlessness and wickedness of people who suppress the truth in unrighteousness. So that little living electric motor, which is known by many biologists, screams out design, as if it could have formed itself. So it screams out design, but the evolutionists, biologists, don't agree that it is design, because they can't cope with the existence of a designer. So Richard Dawkins, who has been in New Zealand recently, he's the most well-known atheist in the world. He has come up with an adjective, designoid, which means having the appearance of design, but not really design, because that would be preposterous. But it has the appearance of being design. So his latest preposterous statement is it's if you pretend that the heart is design, it's a shortcut to understanding the heart, the workings of the heart. If you pretend that the heart is design, that'll give you a shortcut to understanding the workings of the heart. Just pretend it's design. So it's design, or having the appearance of being design. That's godless. The two scientists who discovered the double helical structure of the DNA molecule in the 60s, as they're writing up their findings, one of them, the awesome intricacy of their findings, they're describing the DNA molecule, and he keeps on writing. Now and again he writes, one must keep reminding oneself that this is not the products of design. One must keep reminding oneself that this is not the product of design. So that's the voice of godlessness. Such scientists may be the nicest people in the world, lovely philanthropists, and fine upstanding citizens, not never putting a foot wrong, nice people, but this is the voice of essentially wickedness, because it's definitely the voice of godlessness, and godlessness leads to wickedness. But for us who have had, by the grace of God, had our eyes open, we view creation through the window of our salvation, and with each new discovery, like the little living electric motor, we crown him with yet more crowns. Crown him with many crowns. When I think 2,000 of them would start end to end, would be one human hair, my mind boggles, and I just praise him. Two things follow. Sorry about that. From this one, evolution is impossible. we know that. We know that. Michael Behe wrote a book called Irreducible Complexity. In a nutshell, he says, any machine, whether living or just man-made, that doesn't matter, but any machine must have a minimum number of parts. Otherwise it can't work. So it's irreducibly complex. So take a mouse trap. The mouse trap has to consist of 5 bits: the base, the spring, the hammer, the bait trap, and something else something else that I can't remember. But 5 bits. If you have less than those 5 bits pieces, you don't have something that almost catches mice, but not very well. You just have an assortment of rubbish. But that's the simple mousetrap. But even the universal in this little living electric motor consists of 120 moving parts. Any one of them which was removed, the whole machine would just collapse immediately. So, so it can't come about by small incremental improvements. The whole lot has to be there simultaneously at once. Charles Darwin writes, if it could be shown, and an organism cannot come about by small incremental improvement, my theory would utterly break down. Well, his theory has utterly broken down. He was living in the days before the electron microscope. He thought that a cell was a blob of protoplasm. Now, the electron microscopes saw that a cell is infinitely more complex than a miniaturized city. So evolution is impossible. Molecules to man evolution is completely impossible. So the corollary of that is to tell people. I'm not advocating standing on the street corner and proclaiming that. Although if you want to, be my guest. But everybody has got loved ones. Some of them quite young, just about to go to school, or just about to go to the university. If you can guard them against believing in evolution, a lot of people, it's been documented that a lot of young people who go to university encounter evolution. They believe that because their teachers believe it, and they lose their faith. They stop going to church because evolution is not consistent, is not compatible with the Bible. But if you know that evolution is impossible, you can just gently and lovingly say to them, even memorize the workings of an electric motor. In that way, you will be obedient to witnessing, or you will be obedient to 2 Corinthians 10:5. We demolish argument and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. Evolution sets itself up against the knowledge of God. So you can be loving and protecting of your loved ones, of your vulnerable loved ones, by demonstrating to them that evolution, small incremental improvements, is utterly impossible. And then the second thing that follows from this Romans 1, this small electric motor, is that there are no such thing as atheists. Romans 1 says that although in their hearts they knew God, they neither gave him gave him thanks, nor glorified him as God. So there are no such things as atheists. I read last week that the people are born atheists. No, they're not. They're born sinners, but they're not born atheists. But it says in black and white in Romans 1, although in their hearts they knew God, they suppressed their knowledge. So that's good to know. That's good to know because your task is not to set about convincing them that there is such a thing as God, because deep down they already know that. All you have to do is illustrate his works. So the take-home points: evolution is impossible. It's good to know that, because it enables you to witness to your lovingly witness to your vulnerable loved ones in love by demolishing arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God. And also, if you're chatting to somebody in a coffee shop, it's called creation evangelism. It's not as scary as real evangelism, just telling them the gospel. Just pour out how much your mind boggles at the words of God. I had a friend who said he was an evangelist, and he said, "You've got hands. I've got hands as well. Hands are amazing things, aren't they? Clever chap, God. Clever chap, God." And then so if you describe the workings of a little living electric motor, and then you say, well, it's somebody had to design it, and the designer and maker was Jesus. But Jesus hasn't got a brilliant mind. He's got a loving heart, and his heart is so loving that he died on the cross for you, to take your sins upon himself, to give you his righteousness, so that you can go to heaven. So creation evangelism works. And then another take-home point is that there are no such thing as atheists. It's good to know. Everybody in his heart believes deep down that there is a God. It's good to know. And thirdly, crown him with many crowns. He's the God of the macroscopic and the microscopic. I've told you before, if light was crouched in the starting blocks at one edge of the universe and waiting for the starting gun to fire, the starting gun fires and light springs out of the blocks, going at the speed of light, which is 300,000 kilometers a second, shooting up as fast as his little legs can take it. And it would take 90,000 million years for light to go from one edge of the universe to the other side. 90,000 million years. That's the diameter of the space-time universe is 90 billion light years. It's it's crazily big. It's crazily big. And God marks it off with the span of his hands. He's a God of the macroscopic. He's also the God of the microscopic. 2,000 little electromotors lined up to one human hair. Even more, the DNA molecule, one DNA molecule in the nucleus of one cell has 3 billion letters or characters of information. That would translate into not just one large tome, but enough large tomes like a encyclopedia to fill a bookshelf 100 meters long, and all coiled up into one little molecule, 1/16,000 trillionths of a gram. So, and that's one cell. But you have 100 trillion cells in your body. You are a walking, talking, super duper computer. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Even the little bacterium in your body that aids in your digestion is fearfully and wonderfully made. So crown him with many crowns, because his eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. Praise the Lord.